Exciting day for me. Welcome to this episode of the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. I'm here with Mat Mitchell of the band Puscifer, and you guys are coming up to the Wind Creek Event Center on June 3rd to play, but right now you're on tour, so you're beginning the tour, so we want to get an idea of how's it going so far. You're only a couple dates in.
Yeah, a couple dates in. We started in Daytona. We did Rockville, which went really well. The crowd was really responsive, and the show was, for our first show, I think it was really good. Then we did St. Pete, and now we're in Asheville today, and then Sonic Temple coming up in a few days. So,
and do you have to get yourself revved up a little bit and to go on tour? Maybe different than when you're simply recording or working on projects.
Yeah, I mean, we go through about a week of rehearsals, just kind of getting the dust off and remembering parts and trying to refresh our brains with kind of what we're supposed to do, and then all the movements and things like that, because there's a lot of kind of moving around the stage and knowing where people need to be for certain things. So we take about a week to kind of get through that, and then cross our fingers and run out there and hope it all sticks.
Well, I would imagine the choreography, you're worried about making sure the music's all sounding great and then putting that on top of it. Of course, I'm looking forward to it, but I can understand how it can be pretty tough.
Yeah, it's just a matter of everyone getting on the same page as to, where they need to be for certain things. And, like I said, a lot of it's just blowing the dust off, parts and things like that, which, just takes a few days.
Absolutely. So what can maybe fans expect that's a little different from the Existential Reckoning tour? This is, of course, in support of Existential Reckoning Rewired. But are there some maybe stage elements or things that, people are going to find new and fresh?
Yeah, the stage is a little different. It's a lot of the same songs because it's the same album cycle, so it's a lot of the Existential Reckoning stuff, and then kind of cherry picking older songs and things like that. Anyone that's been to a Puscifer show before knows to not really come with any expectations. Right. And I think you'll be happier that way,
Right. I even the first two shows, I've already read some, reviews on how great and crazy things have been. So that's always a plus. We're looking forward to it. I read a Guitar World article where you were talking about the writing process and how you start out with bits and pieces, and then you make that available to Maynard and Karina and kind of allow them to go through it. And then I think you were calling it 3D chess, where you guys are all kind of going through that. How is that different in the remixing process for you? Do you kind of open up the song file and just go, what can I do here? How is that different?
Yeah. So as soon as we finish the record and we know that we're done with it, we put it to bed, I immediately kind of save off all the different elements that make up each song in anticipation for, handing those out to our friends and having, to have people's different interpretations of those. For me specifically, it's the challenge is that I'm so intimate with the song, being able to disconnect from that and come at, and try to think of a way to come at it that does it justice and yet is unique and different enough that it is worth putting on a remix record,
Right. And clearly, I mean, your hands are all over these songs, your fingerprints everywhere. How do you feel about someone else remixing your song? Do you ever go, man, I wish I thought of that? It must be neat to hear someone reimagining what you have helped to create.
Yeah. I mean, I think, everyone kind of has their own voice and everyone's going to put their own spin and, at points, I wish I sounded like this person or that person, but that's them. And that's why we like them. And that's the biggest gift or pleasure of doing these kind of things is getting to hear what someone else would have done with it or that's the fun part.
One thing for me, I mean, I'm kind of hiding this over here, but during the pandemic, I got way more. I think a lot of people did back into vinyl or, into vinyl for the first time. Kind of talking about that. I read articles about how, this Existential Reckoning was recorded during the pandemic, at least partially. Were there elements or things that came out of the pandemic that have changed the way that you write music, or maybe new things that you've done because of that time?
Not really. I mean, the biggest gain, I think, was that the noise just kind of settled down. So we were able to kind of focus a little easier. I mean, on the flip side of that, you're also dealing with all the added stresses of the unknowns at the time and stuff like that. So, I think all that stuff played in. As far as like any sort of like lessons learned of things to do different, I don't think so. But it was a unique moment in everyone's kind of lives and ours as well, and kind of being in the creative process while going through it, I think is unique and glad we were able to kind of create something out of a period that was kind of a bum out for most people,
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like this is one of those, records during the pandemic that was spun a lot of times for me, and, it was very helpful. So I appreciate you guys for that. Speaking of that, your discography is really varied and deep. Do you have any tracks that you just, maybe besides some of the obvious ones that you just love playing, or you love getting that response to each time you're out there? Or?
I mean, Smoke and Mirrors is a good one. That was the story with that is pretty interesting, at least to me. That song, I wasn't really happy with the direction of it. It was one of those that at the last, when there was no turning back and it had to be mixed, kind of ripped it all apart and rebuilt it. And I'm proud of the way that one turned out, because it was one of those that until the last minute, it was really something I wasn't super happy with. And then we did a kind of a variation of that for the Billy D and the Hall of Feathered Serpents pay-per-view. And that version I think is super cool and really proud of. Yeah.
I'm sure there's no like straight answer to this. You play so many different types of instruments, but when you're maybe sitting down to write a song or you have an idea in your head, what's your first go-to? Do you pick up a guitar? Do you hit the computer, or is it just wherever you are at that moment?
I try to intentionally change it up because I feel that when I go to, guitar, for example, I always kind of go to my safe spots. I know, and it just starts to feel, I don't know. I think that when I go to different instruments and it forces me to kind of think a little differently. So I come up with different ideas. And so I like to avoid starting with the same thing every time.
And going back to that Guitar World article I read, is part of the magic of Puscifer is that collaborative effort between you and of course the other members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is how interesting is that to, one of the things I love about Puscifer is it's so simple, yet then so dense and complex once you start adding these elements onto it. How is that process between you and the other members? I mean, it must be great to create something, and again, kind of like the mixing goes, to see how it all forms when you're able to take all the parts individually.
Yeah, I think it works because we all trust each other and we know that everything's coming from what's best for the song and less about, each individual's thing being, the most important thing. And being comfortable enough to throw ideas out there that maybe aren't the best ideas in hopes that someone's going to make it a better idea, and just being vulnerable with parts and with the process, I think is really cool and allows us to kind of float around and kind of, pull things out of the ether.
And do you write while you're on tour, or you're kind of like, hey, we have to perform this stuff, we have a job to do, or, do you still do that while you're together?
Yeah. Not as a collective, but I think everyone kind of breaks off and in the moments that they do find free time. I know, speaking for myself, it hasn't happened yet on this one because we're still trying to get the wheels off the ground. But
sure,
once we kind of go into autopilot a little bit, certainly if any free time I have, I try to write.
And kind of finish this up here with the tour itself. You were just getting started. What are some of your favorite things, being on tour? I know you're headed overseas, you're doing all that. What do you look forward to, looking at all these dates ahead of you?
Just I think everything has their unique challenges, whether it's the size of the venue or weather or so it's fun to kind of work with the crews that we have and have the trust in everybody that everything's gonna come out in a better than we thought, and and just embracing the unexpected and trying to make the best of it, and hopefully putting on a good show for everybody.
Well, I can tell you that I know a lot of other people are looking forward to you coming up to Bethlehem at the Wind Creek Event Center on June 3rd. So Matt, it's been an honor. It's been great to talk
thank
to
you.
Listen to so much of your stuff. Honestly, we're really looking forward to it, and we wish you the best for the rest of the tour.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Another big thank you to Mat Mitchell of Puscifer, and they're going to be playing at the Wind Creek Event Center on June 3rd. Big shout out to our sponsors, Molly's Irish Grill and Sports Pub, Michael Bernardin with Remax Realty, WXPN FM, and of course, the Wind Creek Event Center. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next time.